What's up? What's up? Welcome to the Warriors Arise and Mom Talk blog. Are you a mom with a successful business feeling overwhelmed with the daily demands of life? Well, today we're going to talk about how to handle changes and moves within your business or your family. In this channel, we will share all the things business, faith, parenting, tips, and tricks to strengthen your identity and all that God has called you to be. If you are a perfect mom, this channel is not for you, so peace out. But if you are a mom with a business and want to be more present with your family and your children, then this channel is for you. And today we're going to talk about how to handle these changes when you have changes in your business and your family lives. So Jojo, what's up,
What's
girlfriend?
up, you guys? So I think this topic is so important, especially right now, because right now when we're recording, it's actually back to school time. And
Yeah.
so what happens in back to school, everyone is just racing, and August and May are like the worst months you can ask for, right? Because you're always changing. The kids are getting out of school in May, or they're going into school in August, September. And so I think this is a perfect topic for today. So we wanted to bring up a few things. Okay, first of all, what is it when you're moving, right? Now you could have the physical move like Yhennifer and I both just had. I had a physical move in February. She just literally had a physical move
Right.
like last month.
Like a week and a half ago.
Exactly. Like a week and a half ago. And look at her office already, right? But what do we do when we feel like either we're stuck and not moving, or when we feel like there is just too crazy and everything is changing, and what are we supposed to do? And one of my favorite things is, so Corey and I, my husband, we reflect on this a lot, actually. Like we look back in the days, because we've been married for 16 years, and we'll be like, oh, I can totally see how we needed to do this in order for this to happen. And one of those experiences was my husband went to physical therapy school. Now, he's not a physical therapist. He actually does the complete opposite. He doesn't do anything physical therapy or healthcare. Well, I guess technically he does a little healthcare, but he doesn't do physical therapy. And so when we were going through physical therapy school, and which was a pure trial, like the worst few years of our life, because we were trying to figure out, like, we had moved to Vegas, we were trying to figure everything out. We had become foster parents, and so we had constant transitions in our home, and like it was a nightmare. It was so hard. And I had never seen Corey, like, he's pretty upbeat most of the time, and he's usually like, things don't really bother him. But because school was so hard, it was really draining on him. And so one thing, like after he finished and then didn't become a physical therapist, we were like, well, that was kind of pointless. But then we started talking about it and was like, well, why did we have to go to Vegas? Well, our kids were all in Las Vegas because we adopted all of them from foster care. And each of our kids, I know, were meant for our home. And so that's one big thing on why we
Yeah.
had to be in Vegas. And nothing would have brought us to Vegas other than to become, the grad school he got accepted into. He didn't get accepted into any other grad school, just the one in Vegas. And so it was interesting to see, like, we put all this time and energy into one thing, but it didn't actually become the thing. And then we had talked a lot about like just those transitions when you're moving and you're like, I don't know, like I felt like this was the right thing, but nothing is coming about. Just be patient, because things are coming about, and you are making the things, the stepping stones that you need for the rest of, your life. Like, these little opportunities are actual movement, even when they feel like they're not.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to chime in and kind of share a piece of our story here too, that it kind of falls into the same topic, because at the end of the day, like, we want to encourage you to know that sometimes you don't know all the things, right? Like, God always has a
Yes.
plan, right? Like, we always, we talk about faith in this channel. Like, God always has a plan. So sometimes you might not understand the little things in the beginning, but then years down the road, you're like, oh, that is why. Just like
It
you.
makes sense.
That is why I was supposed to go to Vegas. Like, that's where I was gonna finalize
Uh-huh.
these things for my children that I was adopting. So like, you
Mhm.
sometimes that happens, and it's frustrating because we are human, right? We're like, dang, we want to know everything right now. So
And everything lasts so long. It's never like 2 months
well, it's
of
so
like,
long to our time, not God's time,
yes,
right?
exactly. But we're always like, oh my gosh, like, what is the purpose?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so true. So I have many I guess, examples and scenarios in my life where that, something similar happened. I was trying to bring up like what would be like the best one to share today. And I will probably say like our move to South Carolina. So you moved to another state. So it's kind of like similar. When we moved
Yes.
here, we lived in Florida. We actually were doing marketing for one of our clients, and one of our clients had an event in South Carolina. So we came to support our client with no intention of like moving here. And we just came and we made it a family vacation. So we brought all the kids. We ended up staying a week. None of us had ever been to South Carolina at that point. So we're like, wait, we're gonna be tourists in South Carolina. We went to see all the things, went to the event for our clients. And then we met some amazing entrepreneurs. And I was like, wow, there's a crazy entrepreneur community here in South Carolina. This is pretty cool. I would love to come back with no intention of like moving, like come to back, like visit, right? So we left to back to Florida. And literally just a few days later, I find Jose like looking at houses over here in the middle of the night. And I'm like, what are you doing? And
You're
he's
like, what is your plan?
yeah,
Yes.
he's like, well, God's been telling me that we should, the word was like move, right? Like that we should move. And, we have a client over there and, we already have like work established over there. Like, why not? Like, this would be amazing, blah, blah, blah. He's trying to sell me his whole story. And I was like, no, I love my church, my kids' school, like, all the things. I was like, no, 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 no. Anyway, long story short, I found him multiple times looking at it. And then we literally tossed a coin and we said, okay, so if the coin lands this way, we'll try to apply to some places, some rentals to see if we get approved. Then if God opens the door, it's great. If God doesn't, then it's not, right? So the coin fell where we had to apply for places, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, whatever. I gotta put my end of the deal in this thing. And we applied to all these places, and every time we put in an application, they would call us back and say somebody before you got the house. So it was like the doors are closing. And I was like, I told you, we're not moving. Boom, 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 boom. I'm so excited. We're staying in Florida. Okay, so then like a month passed and he was still looking at places behind my back. And then he was like, I found the house. This is it. The house number was 33. And that is the age when Jesus started his ministry, right? So he was like, apply for this house. If this is not the house, I'm not gonna bug you anymore. Like if it doesn't work out, if the door's open, then we're out. We're out of here. And I was like, okay. So that same day, I put in the application. I called the office. They said it was available. I put in the application. That same day, I was actually meeting with my life coach that I was just telling you about on a Zoom to pitch her the idea to speak at my event. So I'm on a Zoom call and I'm telling her like, hey, I'm planning to do this event. I didn't tell her nothing about moving. I was like, I'm planning to do this event. I would love for you to be a speaker. She was like, hold on, I got a word from you from the Lord. She's very prophetic. And I press record on the Zoom. I still have that recording. And she goes, God told me that your number was 33. And she started talking about this number 33. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't tell her nothing about the move, but I let her flow and talk, and I'm taking notes of what she's saying. I hang up the call. I call Jose. I'm like, yeah, what she told me? She told me that there was something with this number 33. And Jose's like, that's the house. I get a call from the property management company that was like, listen, we're going to waive your application fee. You don't have to pay anything. You approve. When do you want to move? Like literally in the matter of like an hour, all that happened.
Oh
And I
gosh.
was like,
Which is
okay,
such a whirlwind. Such
that
a
was crazy.
whirlwind.
It was crazy. So when we talk about like all these different things that sometimes like you're not understanding and you don't know what's going on, and it's like God knows, like God loves us and he knows, our steps. He ordains our steps, right? Like our steps are ordered. If you believe in the Lord, if you don't believe in the Lord, let me tell you, God is real. Okay. God is so, so real. And we made the move, right? Like we planned it out and we were here. So that was an instance where I was like not really understanding why this was happening, but I know that was, I had to let go and trust God that that was the best decision for our family. And we are now 3.5 years into this journey living here, and it has been the best decision we have ever made for our family, for our children.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's also an example. What do we do when changes? We talked about back to school. So back to school is crazy because
Yes.
we have lots of kids. I mean, we all do, you do, I do. And now we have a new schedule, right? So we're in a new community, new schedule, new driving routine, new all the things. We even decided that this year we were going to feed our kids and we're not going to do school lunch, right? So literally starting
Why
Monday.
wouldn't you add more to your plate, Yhennifer? I
Yeah,
mean, come
literally
on now.
starting this Monday. Today I gotta go buy a whole bunch of lunch boxes. Okay. We're gonna be meal prepping and sending our kids with healthier alternatives. Okay. So yeah, I mean, what do you do? So I think like we've talked about planning before. Like planning is so important. Like whenever you feel like, oh, everything's going crazy, it's like take a break.
Yes.
Like you have to like reset. I love to meditate. I put on like little beats or water sounds on YouTube and just kind of like sit there and do nothing and just like quiet my mind. And then I create a plan. I'm a planner. I'm a checklist kind of person. That's why I love operations and business. But I can't do that if my head is like going crazy, all the things. I
Yes.
have to like quiet my mind and like meditate for a little bit, spend some time with the Lord, and then I'm like, okay, God, like, what is the plan? Like, give me the download, all right? And then I go and execute, create the plan and execute what I need to create. So I guess my biggest thing or advice for this process is like quiet your mind when things are going crazy and you're trying to plan something out, and then create a plan and then go execute. Um, what was the other thing that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so I think, well, for me, I think, especially with school going
So
back,
what do
like
you do? Yeah.
when these big moves happen, I think in the family life, giving yourself that grace and your
Oh
kids that
man,
grace,
yes.
because here's what I find, especially when there's any of these changes, like moving are huge changes, right? But even small things in your family, like back to school, or even just like someone changing the way that they act, right? That can bring a lot of turmoil into your house. And I can't tell you how many times I meet with parents that are like, or moms that are just like, I just feel like I'm failing in every way because my kids are like a mess and they get home from school and they're just mean and like sometimes it's like, okay, we just need that reset button.
Yeah.
And and sometimes it is going back to that family council like we've talked about before, where it's like, okay, what do we need in this house? Like we're all obviously missing something because it's just pure chaos right now. And I think it's equal to say this to everybody because every family is going to have their turbulent times. Some families will have more chaos than others.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important that like meet your kids where they're at in the sense of okay, recognizing it's the first week of school. You are going to have fist fights between all your siblings if they're the same age. Like it's just going to happen. They're tired, they're exhausted, like they just are in each other's business. They haven't been around each other, but they want to hang out with each other, but then they're like also mad at each other and like it's this weird dynamic that they're trying to figure out again. And so I think giving yourself that grace of like, okay, where is the reset button? Is it a reset button every night for the first month of school? It might be. And that's okay. Recognizing these little changes in your family to allow that it's going to be okay until you make it through the end of that. I don't know if that came out in
Yeah,
English, but
I love that. So like the reset and the grace, like that was like the two main things. I love that. That is so true. It's so true because remember we talk about how this channel is not for perfect people. Like none of us are perfect, right? Like we all have stuff going on. We're trying to figure things out as we go. I mean, when kids turn different ages, they do different things and they're
yes.
different developmental stages in their mind too. So we have to like also keep that in mind. Like they're also going through stuff. You know what I'm saying? We're going
Yes.
through stuff,
Their
they're going
own
through
roller coaster.
we're all going through,
Yes.
okay? So it's like, how do we best support the family? And I think we've talked in this channel before, like one of the things that we do here in our house is we have a Sunday family meeting, and that
Yeah.
in that
Us too.
meeting, we do have an agenda because I'm an operator, right? So there's an agenda. But in
Yes.
the agenda, okay, there is a bullet point that says, is there anything that you feel you want to share with the family, right? Like, so that way it gives
Yes.
them an opportunity of something that happened that week, or this person treated me this way, or whatever. It's not like we're here complaining about everybody, but just an opportunity for them to share how they feel about something that happened
Yeah.
that week. Sometimes they
It's
talk.
to get the it's to get the peace back in your home. That's
Mhm,
really what it is. Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes they talk and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. All right. So you just like give the opportunity. I think that that's the most important thing, to give the opportunity to your children to share how they feel. And then let's like jump into like business when you have to make a change in business or change
Yes.
in career paths. Because I feel like I've had to do that
Oh yeah. Every entrepreneur does.
multiple times in my
And
life.
that's the biggest thing is like a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you're like, I don't know why we're making this change. This sounds terrible. Or I don't know what happened to the business. It's like dying. But really, it's just that next opportunity that needs to happen. It's kind of like moving to Vegas. It's like, what was the purpose of that? But
Yeah.
then you look back and you're like, Oh, okay. Like if my husband and I would not have been marriage coaches, I guarantee our marriage would not have been as strong during the harder times of our business stuff, of life, right? Because we knew the tools to handle that we would teach to everybody on how to help themselves and their family. And so it became like, okay, we need to just get back to the drawing board. What was the live zipper? Why are we, let's get back to like talking about the things that we used to teach people, right? So that way our marriage could stay strong during the harder times,
Yeah,
and it just, every part of business has that aspect of it where it's like, I don't understand why this part had to fail. But maybe wasn't actually failing. Maybe you just had to know it so you could have it instead of
yeah.
what you thought, which was teaching it to the world,
Yeah. Or it was part of that long-term thing that God had for you, you know. So I'll share a little bit of my career background so that, I'm not doing nothing that I was doing, 10 years ago. So, but every little piece led to like where I
Oh
am
yeah,
now, right? So it's like,
exactly.
almost 10 years ago, yeah, a little over 10 years ago, I started working online. I was doing network marketing. That's how I found the online space. Like I met a girl at my church. She's like, you can make money online. I had just gotten laid off from my corporate job. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was a single mom at that time, single mom with 3 kids. And this girl in a retreat, I went to this retreat for my church. She was my roommate. She was like a really top high level network marketer. She was pitching me her deal, right? And I was like, I don't even know what that is, right? I had no idea what network
Yes.
was. I didn't know that you could make money online. I didn't know anything about the online space. And she was like, you could meet with me for coffee after the event, and then we can I could tell you about this thing, because right now we're focused on, this retreat. And I was like, I don't even have money to meet for coffee. Like that's what I told her. I was
Mhm.
like, I have one paycheck left from when I got laid off, and I need to figure out how I'm gonna make that paycheck last until I figure out my next thing, right? I'm single mom, 3 kids. And she was like, don't worry, I got you. I'm gonna buy you coffee. And I was like, okay, whatever. She was trying to get me to her thing. Long story short is I met with her for coffee. I signed up for this network marketing company. It was a health and wellness program. I literally, within 3 months, I was 2 ranks away from the top of the company, the network marketing company, without knowing nothing. So it was just like ignorance on fire. I was like pitching everybody. I was a walking billboard. Everywhere I went, I was like pitching the thing, right? And at that time, people would buy because they would buy into me, into my story, into me. It wasn't
Yes.
because of the products. It was, oh my God, we want to help this crazy woman. She's over there rapping people. It was that crazy rap thing. I don't know if you ever heard of the It Works company. That's how I
Mhm.
was with. So anyway,
Yes.
that journey led me into personal development. I had no idea what personal development was. They don't teach personal development in school. I'm like,
No.
and I went to college and everything. So it's like, what is it? It was like a whole new world for me. I started to buy, consume all of Tony Robbins' books and Jim
Yep.
Rohn, like all the best of the best, motivational speakers out there in the world. And it was just like all new to me. So that journey led me into personal development. While I was like doing personal development, I met a mentor. I learned about this thing called mentors. There's mentors out there. I'm like, wow, there's like people that you
They
could pay.
do exist.
Yeah, that you could pay and then they teach you their knowledge. I'm like, that's a thing. So I invested into my first mentor that taught me about affiliate marketing. And it was like a affiliate marketing mentorship. I got into affiliate marketing. I left the network marketing. I was like, oh my gosh, affiliate marketing is amazing. I don't have to build no teams and harass people for stuff. And I started the affiliate marketing world. Through the affiliate marketing world, that's where I met Jose around that time. That's where I met Jose. Jose comes from a brick and mortar background. He's always owned a brick and mortar. When I met him, he owned a barbershop. Before that, he owned a cell phone store. His parents owned bodegas and restaurants. So he comes from the entrepreneurial brick and mortar family. So I met him online through this whole thing of me trying to figure out, affiliate marketing and all that. We got together. He moved to Florida. That's a whole other life. That's a whole other video. But when we got together, there we joined the ClickFunnels community, which it was because our mentor was using ClickFunnels, and he was like, "Hey, you need to build funnels in order to make money online." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm listening to my mentor, right? Because I paid for his time. I got into that community. There's funnel hacking live event coming up. We actually won tickets. Jose and I won tickets through like a contest that they had for us to go to funnel hacking live. We go into funnel hacking live.
Nice.
We leave from there like, oh my gosh, you know this marketing, and then Jose knows this brick and mortar work. Why we don't start a social media marketing agency or a marketing agency so we could help small business owners like grow their businesses online? So we left from there with that idea and we launched the marketing agency and it's still running today. But through that journey, there has been so many changes in our offers of what we do
Oh,
for
yes.
agency because we've had to evolve with the times. But all of that being said, that, a few years later, I ended up working with Russell and Russell's team, right? Like, from that retreat, right? I had no idea that
Yes.
retreat, right? And I was going to meet this crazy girl. She was going to be my roommate. She was going to tell me about this thing called online, making money online world. That I ended up doing all these things, working with Russell. And then after working with Russell, I got to do some amazing work in the community management. I learned about community management. I was not planning to do anything about communities. That was not like, that wasn't even in my sight. But the marketing team at ClickFunnels, that was like, you're such a people's person. You should just run our community, right? I started doing that. That became a thing. Facebook reached out to me. I was one of the speakers at Facebook, to speak. I never spoke in my life, like my first paid speaking gig, right? So it's like all these things. And I had no idea that from that retreat, I was going to end up being a speaker, writing a book, working with the top marketers in the world. I actually had an opportunity to run and coach and teach Tony Robbins' community and marketing team. Like I was like purchasing his books 10 years ago, and he was like somebody that was like a far I look, and I ended up working with their team and running their communities for like a year, and being part of what they were doing, Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. So it's like, it's been 10 years, right, of all these things, but it's like,
Yes.
I didn't know. But what if through that journey I would have been like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like what if I wasn't open-minded and was like, you know what? Like
Yes.
God let me here for a reason. Let me see why this door was open. So with all that being said, there's been so many changes in my career, and I'm now a business advisor for an operations company that, the one connection led me to another. So like one piece, like you were saying, like the building blocks led me to another.
Yes.
And not, yeah, so it's been a lot, but I've been open-minded. So it's like, I want you, if God is opening up doors for you, if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know why this is happening or why this door is opening, walk through the door. Like God, if God doesn't want that for you, he will close that door. So like always ask
Yes.
for wisdom. Always ask God, is this door your door? Is this the door that you want me to walk through? Right. And if it feels at peace, like that's what I do when I'm about to make a decision. I guess we're getting now into like how to make a decision when you got to move. Right.
When you gotta move.
Yeah, when you got to move and make a move, it's like you ask for wisdom, you pray about it, you ask God. And if you feel at peace about that decision, that's how I know that I'm walking in the right direction. If I feel
Yeah.
like my stomach turns and it's like there's like some hesitancy in that situation, I'm like, no, that's not the door that God wants for me. Right. So if you feel at peace, move. Like opportunities, like you have to move. I think there's some quote that says like, the most successful people are the people that actually like move when an
Jump
opportunity.
on the opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, don't procrastinate, because if you procrastinate, then you might lose an opportunity that was meant for you. Okay,
Yep.
that was like a long
Yep.
story short, but that's really like what's happened in my career, and I'm so grateful where I am now. Like, I have a flexible schedule. I could work whenever. I could pick up my kids. I could drop off my kids. I work with the most amazing entrepreneurs all around the world. I love what I do, but that would not have happened if I wouldn't have said yes
No.
and yes and yes and yes and took a chance. Took a chance
Yes.
and asked God for wisdom.
Yeah. And I think too, like last words is that, excuse me. I think that too is like not only having the yes when it feels right and moving on that opportunity, but also the fact that like you don't have to look at the past things as failures because they're
Right.
not.
I
Like
love
they're
that.
actually stepping stones that led you to the direction. Like we don't have time today for me to tell the story of why we became entrepreneurs, but it was very similar. I mean, physical therapy conference, and my husband is not a physical therapist any like he was in school, and that's what led us to our journey. And it wasn't physical therapy, it was marriage coaching, and it was personal development stuff, and then mindset, and like so many things.
Yeah, you know what
So
I think we should do, Jojo? I think we should make a separate video, like me, my own video of our story and talking about our
I think
journey,
we should.
yours, and then we share it on each other so that you
I think
guys
so.
can hear, a little bit more details of our stories, because
Yes.
it's not been easy. It has not been,
No.
hasn't been like a one-way street, right? Like we're like
No.
cruising along. No, it has not.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of
No. Lots of doors closing and lots
yeah,
of doors opening in random spots.
and a lot of moving, a lot of changes, right? And a lot of mindset stuff that we've had to also
Oh
overcome.
yeah.
you
Oh
know.
yeah.
So we want to encourage you that you are not alone. If you have changes going on in your life, it's okay. Like, try to take some of these, examples that we've given you guys here and try to apply them in your life. Obviously
Yep.
we're not perfect either, but you have to try things, try different things to see what works for you, what works for your family. And God always has a plan. So that is where I want to end it. Like, God always has a plan for you, for your life, if you always seek his wisdom. Like, to seek his wisdom, he will guide you in the right direction, even if you don't understand it at that moment, but it's part of the big picture.
Yes. Perfect. All right, you guys, we'll see you next time and you have a great week.
See you in the
Move
next video.
forward. Bye,
Peace.
guys.